Good morning. It's around 7:30 right now on Saturday, October 29th. It's a couple days before Halloween in 2022. This morning I just finished recording an audiobook for the book I'm about to present to you right now. This is one of Edgar Rice Burroughs' books, which I find him to be a great author because usually it's action adventure and it's just very simplistic reading. It's almost like beach reading that you can just run through something so fast because it doesn't take too much time trying to give you like plot twists, and it gives you the background but doesn't go into such a detailed level of the background that you can just enjoy the story being told and follow it from beginning to end with no issues. I do recommend Edgar Rice Burroughs to anyone who likes science fiction or fantasy, especially on the science fiction side. I actually have on my channel here a whole folder dedicated to Edgar Rice Burroughs. So if you'd like to hear this voice actually saying anything, please check it out. As always, like, subscribe, and all that kind of other jazz. But this book here is the sixth in Edgar Rice Burroughs' book series regarding Mars, which he calls BARSOOM. And essentially, there's usually a man, or an American generally, goes looking up at the heavens, looks at Mars, and is like, I want to be there. And somehow his desire to be there physically transforms him from Earth to Mars. And then he realizes that due to gravity, his Earth gravity versus Mars gravity, he's a lot stronger on Mars. He can jump and leap bounds, almost like Superman back when he originally was created. He can just traverse 20 feet in a couple seconds. Jump over things amazingly so, which awes the people who actually live on Mars, or Barsoom, and usually gets him into some kind of military involvement of some kind. The mastermind of Mars is actually the sixth in the series, and originally he starts out with one protagonist called John Carter and brings him through his adventures as he gets to Mars, falls in love with a princess there, and then practically saves the world. It's one of those kind of very simple stories. But Edgar Rice Burroughs tends to shift the focus of who is going to be his protagonist along the way. I believe originally it was John Carter, and then he marries the princess, and now he's the warlord of Barsoom, and they have kids, and then the kids have a book or two after it. Now he's switching it again. Now there's another person on Earth, his name is Ulysses, gets transported to Mars and has the adventure as seen in this novel here. Now, what is this adventure? Well, quite simply, he gets there and ends up in a complex which is run by this one scientist. I don't want to just say mad scientist, but he's very endowed with mental capacities, and he tends to do a lot of experiments on bodies. He would actually purchase dead people and then preserve them because he might find somebody who needs a new arm because they've been chopped off in a war or a battle, and they pay him, and he takes an arm from a cadaver and puts it on the new person. He actually got to the point where he finds ways to take a person who's alive, who might be beautiful, and embalm them. Because later on, someone who becomes old, which actually happens in this story, there is a queen of a certain country who's old and ragged and her face is scarred, comes to this mad scientist and says, listen, I want that beautiful body right there. And he finds a way to actually literally switch the brains in the two bodies and revives the old person in the new body so that she can continue her reign of tyranny, because you got to have a bad person in these kind of novels, for as long as she wants to. And she can keep coming back over and over again and keep getting younger bodies and reign literally forever. Ulysses, who the scientist, after he teaches him the language, calls Vadvaro, learns this whole thing and finds out that the beautiful body with which gave to the evil queen was actually someone who was quite lovely, and kind of falls in love with her. And the whole purpose of the book is he wants to restore the brain of the old person back to their old body and put this girl back in her own body. Because after she's awakened, she wants no other body but her own. She'll live with the disgrace of living in an old body until then. And then as it goes on, it's a matter of Vodvaro going and finding other people to join his cause, and of course they have their own goals as well. And it says, hey, you join me, I'll help you, and we move on from there. And it just kind of takes that linear thought and just goes step by step by step by step by step until it gets to your happy ending. And everyone gets a happy ending. And the bad people are punished however they're punished. Not necessarily one of those like, oh, we kill and destroy the bad person. They're just punished. And then life moves on. It was a fun read. I will give it that. I actually got originally introduced to these because every now and again you might go into, say, a Barnes & Noble. And granted, I'm talking about the days before Amazon and online buying. And they would have a lot of these like omnibus edition books out there. And I originally had found one of those here after reading some other Edgar Rice Burroughs books. And this actually collected the first 3 novels in the series. And I kind of liked the cover. It was a nice hardback edition. Looks great on the shelf. So I had bought this. I absorbed it. I think it was fantastic. And it had what became what I read in this book, just like it was before. He goes to Mars. Wow, he meets some people. They want to kill him. He kills them back. Boom. Now he's a warlord. Moves on. Sees a woman. I love her. She gets taken away like most princesses do, apparently, back in the day. Chases. Catches up. The madman leaves. Chases the madman. He gets in a boat and goes down the river. John Carter gets in a boat and goes down the river. Then he goes to this, then he goes to that. And he just keeps on chasing and following him until he gets to the end. And while the chasing and following is going on, he'll encounter other people on the planet. Generally, the people on Mars are all red-skinned. In fact, it's interesting the way they even did the cover of this annual, because back in the day, that's how these books were actually published, was they actually came into magazines, sometimes in serial form over like 6 or 7 issues. But here is the actual red scientists on Mars. And that's kind of how they look normally. But just like Earth, there are many different versions of people on Mars. And there are people with red skin, people with black skin, people with yellow skin. There are apes. There are green, actual Martian-looking people. And as he goes through his linear adventure, he might encounter some, and it creates a hurdle he has to get over originally, and then usually befriends one of them, becomes part of his team, his posse, and he moves along. Again, very linear. You don't have to worry about the surprise ending, or remember that thing way back when? That's very important now. It's the Chekhov's gun theory. That wait, when are they actually going to use this thing? No. You just take it for a ride and enjoy it. I was kind of upset that this edition never had a sequel to it. Other collected editions do exist. This one did not. So this is like, unfortunately, does not have any like brothers and sisters to go next to it on the bookshelf behind me. Although there are other collected editions out there. Odds are they actually have the agreement with the people who own the rights that can do that. And I've seen those on used bookshelves that go for really cheap, and I've been picking them up since. Usually have the first book in all of them, and I'm looking for other ones, but passively looking. You know, when I come around them, I'll pick them up, and I'm not just going to go out and search for them and buy them right now. For instance, this is one of the famous editions that actually collects, I think there's 3 of these size books, collects the entire series. This one here being the first 5 books instead of the first 3 in the other one. There's a softcover edition too, same thing. And it goes about this thick, and I think this one is the first 3. Yeah, this is also the first 3. So I've got 3 different versions of this book on my shelf, and eventually we'll get more and more. Although I have learned along the way that sometimes when you see these things, like that leather-bound edition on the one rack in the Barnes & Noble, that's because the book is in the public domain. And once in the U.S., once the book gets in the public domain, anyone can do anything with it. I personally can leather bind books and print this off on parchment paper and put it into a book and sell it myself if I wanted to, because the rights are for everyone. They're public. Now, it's possible because the 6th book in the series just became in the public domain. Maybe Library of Wonder might come out with another edition of books 4, 5, and 6. Because that would be beautiful to put next to this, and then I'll sell the other 2 editions if I need to. But I digress. In any event, Mastermen of Mars, if you want to listen to it, it's about 5.5 hours or 6 hours long on this channel. Go find you can go find the folder and the file in the playlist section of this channel. But these are nice little books. I do like his work, and will read more of them when I get the chance. This time around, I actually haven't read all of them. Like I said, I read the 3 from the original omnibus that I got, and now I'm on 6. But the fact that the characters are changing between the books didn't affect what I read. At the very, very end, the guy actually does mention some names. Like, oh wow, I can't believe I'm in the presence of John Carter and Deja Thoris and this, that, and the other. And half the names I didn't know, but again, I just know they're going to be the heroes eventually, so wasn't a problem. Okay, that's all I have for today. Hope you enjoyed. I hope this helps. Let me know about it. Like, subscribe, comment, all that kind of jazz. Otherwise, I'll be back soon with the next one. Bye-bye.